Welcome in to Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears network production. Download the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon, to follow the team on the go. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, Bet Rivers, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Well, one of the most interesting schedules we've seen in recent years for the Chicago Bears released this week for our perusal. And we'll break it down tonight here on Bears Weekly. Jeff Joniak with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, and from SiriusXM, moving the chains on NFL Radio, the former Bears quarterback Jim Miller. Thanks to Dan Barilli and Jordan Tredup, our producers. On the ESPN studios, Sean Graney, the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, is Eric Ostrowski. Good evening, one and all. Later on in the show, we'll have a conversation with Bears fifth-round defensive end Austin Booker out of Kansas. Tom, Jim, how we feeling? Happy schedule. Happy schedule.
Yeah, I don't know where the Bears' schedule ranks amongst the toughest, however they rank them. But, I know that you always have a little bit of angst talking about the schedule before the start of the season, because you say you never know what's going to be happening when you get to some of these teams. And the difference, last year we played Green Bay week 1 and then week 17. This year, again, Green Bay week 17. But we don't really get into the division until the second half of the season, which is really exciting for me.
Yeah.
Because I like it coming down to the wire like that. I like the Bears to have some of these young guys get involved in this football team, whether it's anybody from Austin Booker to Caleb to Rome to Amagaji, whomever it could be, to help this football team. And they're going to have a little bit of experience before they get into the division.
Yeah, Jim, the carrots are going to be hanging there. I keep saying season doesn't begin until week 11. And in most cases, the season really doesn't begin until around Thanksgiving anyway. It's about the after Thanksgiving football if you want to finish the job. I just mentioned how Waddle and Sylvie. Look what happened to the Eagles last year. Look what happened to Jacksonville last year. Look what happened to the Chargers. Things just deteriorated in a hurry despite good starts. And you got to take care of businesses home and, win, hopefully, half your games on the road.
Yeah, it's you're right. There's so many ebbs and flows to the season. I think even last year you saw that with the Bears, right? They came out of the gate, and Nate Davis and some guys on the offensive line were a little banged up, and then they started to run the football well once they settled that in, and then started playing really well towards the second half of the season, and hopefully that can be the build-up for that momentum, because I don't think that's the worst thing in the world, that the division, like you said, is going to get started in week 10. Guys will be able to settle in with a new scheme offensively, and hopefully by that time of the season, you're starting to click offensively. And again, injuries are going to play a part of it, but that's no excuse. Guys, if one guy goes down, guys got to step up and play. I think play well. I think we know that's not always the case, but I do think overall the Bears' schedule reminds me a lot of the Steelers, because they're the same way.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a tough division. You look at that AFC North, that division will be a bloodbath and probably decided the last week. So I think this how the Bears is structured is going to benefit them for the schedule this year.
Jeff and Jim, if you look at the schedule and you break down those first 7 weeks and you look at, there's 3 experienced quarterbacks within that first 7 weeks. There's a lot of inexperience at the quarterback position in the rest of those games they play. So I think that really gives Caleb an opportunity to go out there and really battle to help the Bears battle in these games, because, Tennessee, I think, it's still uncertainty. Houston, obviously, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson in Indy. Then you have experience with the Rams, Bryce Young with Carolina. You got the Jacksonville quarterback, and then Washington. So it's really going to be interesting to watch the quarterback position specifically within those first 7-8 weeks of this season.
Jim, if my math's right, I mentioned this to Tom earlier today. I think there are 11 games or 11 teams now. I can't remember which one I said that have that Shanahan, McVay offensive scheme systems. The branches, all these coaches, and it's in the entire division, including the Bears with their new offensive coordinator. How just play with me a little bit on this. Do you care about that? Does that help a team over the course of a season? Because everybody has nuances to it and does it a little different, but the gist of it is something clearly the Bears defense is going to get to know very, very well.
Yeah, it's a scheme it's a hot scheme right now. Why? Because it's quarterback friendly, and look at the teams that have had success with it. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay were in Washington together.
Yep.
Okay, and so then it branched off from there. He gets the head coaching job, San Francisco. McVay gets the head coaching job of the Rams, and that's how it goes. And then Shane Waldron was a part of those staffs with the Rams. So he then goes up to Seattle because it's a quarterback-friendly system. They want to get Russell Wilson back on par, and of course the development of Geno Smith. And then Dave Canellis, who was under Shane Waldron, he goes to Tampa. He wants to, because they were going to have a competition, Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, and wanted to get Kyle Trask up and running. Baker won that competition. And so it's a very quarterback-friendly. You can get it up and running. It's the inside-outside zone concepts. You've got a lot of crossing routes. Look at all the over routes that Matthew Stafford throws with McVay, and it really just puts the defense in a bind, because a lot of the plays, especially when you look at the Rams, and I would say that about Kyle Shanahan, too, for the 49ers. Cal Purdy, another example. Young, up-and-coming quarterback, simple system. It's easy for the quarterback, but it puts the defense in a bind. They always have the play action off of the run game, and everything looks the same. And it looks like a fast break because they play at a very fast tempo.
So, Tom, can a defense settle in and can they pick up the signals over the course of the season here and get into a rhythm with some of these offenses to stop them?
When I was listening to Jim talk and, the quarterback position and how it affects them, the different types of passes you called, the influence of the head coach, I look at all these teams and I start thinking about their offensive lines, because there's something to the system you run. But do these teams have the offensive line to protect against what the Bears have been able to offer you in that second half of the season? And if they do kind of find either a diamond in the rough with Austin Booker and it has some pass rushing potential to go with Montez Sweat, and does Javon Dexter Sr. take that next step forward along with Zach Pickens and the rest of the guys? And the linebacker position came on so well, and the defensive backfield is super versatile. I think the defense can get connected to this, but it's really about what type of protection do the offensive lines give these young, inexperienced quarterbacks that they're going to face in the early part of the season. And
to finish the season strong in those you got to be healthy. Healthiest team in the division is going to survive and compete for a playoff spot. That's how I feel about it, and I'm sure that'll be the case, because it always is in the National Football League. Got to take our first break with Tom Thayer and Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is sponsored by IGS Energy. Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio, and the former Bears quarterback on the show. Coming up in a couple of segments, we'll be joined by rookie defensive end Austin Booker. Jim, I saw this, read this, and heard some about the schedule preparation, and it is a literal quadrillion different possibilities every year, and I don't know how they pull it off, but they do. But, the primetime games is what everybody talks about, and you kind of gauged and rated based on how many you're getting. The Jets, of course, with Aaron Rodgers healthy, getting 6, and Houston's getting a lot. Bears with 3. That could change with flex. But that 3:25 Central Time spot is the most viewed game of the week. I didn't really look into that before, but that's the prime spot.
Well, and plus it's going to be interesting because of all the streaming services, too. And how is that affecting how fans are viewing the game? I think it was Pat and I were talking about this today. It's something like if you were to sign up for all the streaming that it's going to be on, obviously Netflix this year, you got Amazon, just Apple, it's over like $1,000. So, to me, it could affect viewership. But, as for the primetime games, Dallas is always going to command it because they're a big market. Obviously, they're always minimum. They get 5 primetime games every year. Jets, according to the NFL, they feel that team with Aaron Rodgers, it commands it because they lost out on it last year where they wanted to feature them. They're hoping that they're going to cash in on that this year. I think a lot of times they get it wrong because there's already some under-the-radar teams that I think are really going to surprise. And one of those, to me, is Washington. I think Washington is a very strong team. I know it's a rookie quarterback, but you look what they've added here this offseason. Dan Quinn will get that team up and running very quickly. Tampa won the division last year and down in the NFC South. Everybody thought that was a surprise. Well, everybody's coming back. And that is going to be a very good team that's underrated and kind of flying under the radar right now. That is going to be a good team moving forward. I think the Rams, everybody's got San Francisco as the favorite every game out there in the West. I think the Rams are the team, believe it or not.
Yeah, I like the Rams.
And that's even with Aaron Donald retiring. Think about that.
Yeah.
That offense is a fast break with Matthew Stafford, and they're getting Cooper Kupp back on offense. It's going to be interesting.
Tom, I hope Jim thinks the Bears are also going to be one of those teams.
Yeah, I do. I think the Bears are under the radar.
Yeah.
For the city of Chicago, they're as excited as all can be. Again, is this team ready to make a Super Bowl run? Well, I temper your enthusiasm a little bit. They've got a lot of work to do, but they'll be able to line up and compete, and they're a lot better than what people are talking about. That's for sure.
Well, you think of some of the messages that have already started in this offseason, whether it's Jalen Johnson or Montez Sweat talking about the importance of what they need to do within the division and who they need to beat with regularity. And I think that's important that kind of spills into the entire locker room from the very beginning and pick up that intensity in training camp, because I think you have realistic football at the practices in order to get Caleb ready as soon as possible. And then when you talk about all the other pieces, still DJ and Keenan, Gerald Everett with Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, and that whole group of guys, you have to formulate an offensive line that practices together during training camp so they're ready for week one of the regular season. And I think the Bears should have, if people want to call them unrealistic expectations, I think the Bears should have expectations that are as high as they've been in a long time. The question mark for me of any teams in the NFL is the Dallas Cowboys, because the last time that they were on TV, they were getting beat pretty convincingly by one of the teams in our division, and they did nothing in the offseason. And they have a quarterback that is accounting for so much of their salary cap. It's going to be interesting to see how things unfold for them. But it's about the Bears and that Tennessee, Houston, Indianapolis start. They got to have that conversation as much as they wanted to talk about Green Bay, that they have the ability to win those 3 games. I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion they will, but they have to have a lot of positive chatter amongst the veterans and the rookies.
But again, at the same time, I know week one is always it's the thumb, right? If you
right.
hit it with a hammer, it's gonna But it is. We talk about it all the time. It is the great unknown. If you lose week one, your season's not over. People talk about must wins in week one, but it would put it this way: it'd be a nice starting point to get some breathing room and confidence brewing in that locker room. Not that they didn't pick it up at the end of last year, but this is a different team. There's different players, and every year it's frankly, it's a different team every week in the NFL. Because
let me just interrupt you.
Would you agree with that, though? Yeah.
All right, let me interrupt you with one quick question. So Tennessee, Jeff, opening week of the season, who do you introduce, the offense or the defense?
You come out as a team.
No, you don't do that. You're going to introduce one side of the ball, Jeff. Please don't answer like that. When the Bears,
a lot of teams come out as a team.
No, you're just a Debbie Downer. Because I think when you look at it. So
you just want me to play with you here? I'll say
no.
I'll say defense.
Okay.
Save the big, because when Caleb comes out, the place is going to erupt.
Yeah, I agree with Jeff. I don't think, like last year, I just want to take you back to last year. Think of all the goodwill and hope that was built up to the season. There were some analysts out there predicting that Justin Fields was going to be MVP of the league. And then you go out and you get spanked by Green Bay opening week. And all that was lost. All that was lost. All that goodwill, all that hope what was going into the season, and that's what this is. The offseason, it's all about hope. When you talk about the draft and all those things, that gets everybody's hopes up. At the end of the day, you got to go out and do it. You got to go out and do it. And they didn't do it, and they lost that. And they were off the rails for about the first 6 weeks of the season till they started to turn it around for all the reasons, and exactly what you said, Jeff, the ebbs and flows of the season. The Bears weren't healthy all through training camp at their offensive line the whole time. We knew they needed another pass rusher. That didn't happen until they made that trade, right, for Montez Sweat. So much could happen. But at the end of the day, when you have that hope and goodwill that's built up, you got to go out and do it. And I think they'll be able to do it defensively, and we'll see where it goes offensively because they got to be ready to roll week one.
You know, like Kevin Byard and Tyreek Stevenson, they give me a lot more hope at the beginning of the season rather than the question marks we had at the beginning of the season last year.
Right.
Because when you think about coming back from an injury at the safety position, you didn't know how, and then, you know, Tyreek started to turn around in the second half of the season, and he's a legitimate NFL cornerback. But I think the reason I was asking about the introduction is because I think that when you're throwing out a Montez Sweat, you're throwing out a T.J. Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, you know, just this whole group of characters, and you think about the Bears and the reputation of this team over the years is from great defensive play, and week one, it would be great recognition of that part of the team.
Yeah, because I don't think their young quarterback, Caleb Williams, needs any more
right,
you know, fanfare. That crowd would erupt if they were to say starting quarterback Caleb Williams, and then opening series he throws a pick six. That's the last thing you want to happen, in my opinion. You know, so that kid doesn't need any more pressure than what's on him.
All right, one last thing before we take a break. Charlotte Carey, the NFL Director of Broadcasting, told Kay Adams on Up and Adams today on the strategy of why the division games are pushed so far. It just happened that way. It falls that way. But her quote was, Bears are an exciting team. We're really counting on using them strategically across the different windows. It falls where it falls. The NFC North in general is really exciting and a super fun run down the stretch for the entire division. She could not be more right. That's Tom Thayer, Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak. When we come back, our visit with Austin Booker, the Bears' fifth-round pick, defensive end out of Kansas. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 on the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Welcome back here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer, and Jim Miller will be along after our interview with rookie defensive end Austin Booker. It feels good, Austin. Thanks for taking the time to join us. I'm sure to hear your name announced now as an NFL player, rookie defensive end, this is just the beginning of what you hope is going to be a real long journey. Is it sunk in, really, that this is where you're at?
It has. The past couple of days, been around the vets a little bit, and it's just been a dream come true. So I'm just going to take full advantage of it and keep working, keep getting better. Kind
of crazy stuff at the age of 21, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm a young one.
Think about this. And there have been guys. I mean, there was a guy, Amobi Okoye. He was a defensive tackle. He was drafted high, I think, by the Houston Texans. We had him here for a bit. But he entered the league at 19.
Oh, wow.
And he was the youngest guy in the league. And I thought, oh, my gosh, how – I mean, I think of myself at that age and just think about just 3 years plus you were wrapping up a state championship in Indiana, right?
Yeah.
I mean, did you envision that three plus years ago?
I did. This was the goal. I told myself I was going to be 3 and done. And, I mean, I didn't see it happening at first, not playing at all at Minnesota.
Yeah.
But I get to Kansas, have a great season, and everything came together, so I'm just grateful.
This is going to sound maybe a weird question to an athlete who's got a lot of confidence, but given the fact you didn't get many snaps in Minnesota, did it scare you a little bit? Like, oh, my gosh, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, 100%, but it just makes you better. Like, you realize you have to get bigger. You have to realize you have to get stronger to get on that field. And once you do that, sometimes it's just not a good fit. Sometimes you still don't get on the field. So that's when you kind of have to look other places to get on the field. But I feel like it just made me better.
Did like your family, were they encouraging and supportive of that? Because having kids that go to college. I had some situations where they were considering moving on. They didn't play sports, but I'm like, why don't you just give it a chance? I mean, did you get both sides of the conversations, and even with the coach up there in Minnesota, which we all know here in Chicago, PJ Fleck?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, at first my parents were just saying, grind it out, maybe you need to improve, maybe you need to do whatnot. So that's what I did at first. And then after I showed my talents and they still didn't want me on the field, that's when you kind of make those other comments. So.
Green light, go.
Yeah.
Was there a ton? I mean, this transfer portal for a guy who's a traditionalist in football. I mean, I went to Iowa State. You got us this year.
Yeah.
Nice job. It was the Big Eight.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the old days, so the transfer portal and all that, it's great for you guys,
100%.
For sure. Coaches get to leave and do whatever, and then you're stuck with getting to know a new coach and new system and whatnot. But how beneficial is that for a player in your particular situation and others like that in college football?
Yeah, I mean, it's great because, I mean, there's probably some people in my situation years before that didn't get that second chance and didn't get to show off their talents. So in that situation, it's a great thing. But there's obviously other situations where it hurts teams and stuff like that.
Well, then you go to Kansas, and Lance Leipold is a heck of a coach. He was up at Wisconsin Whitewater, so we got real familiar with him. Bears used to practice up in Platteville, Wisconsin, as you may or may not know. And he just did a great job, won so many championships there, and he's been producing edge rushers. And so, boom, Big 12 Newcomer of the Year. It's like you have a brand new, like the magic wand just hit, right? Tell me about that process and when you knew it was clicking.
Yeah, it was second game against Illinois. I had 2 sacks. I was just feeling it, man. I didn't start, but once you get on the field and you're going in through those motions, and you either feel it or you don't. And I got that feeling where I was dominating, and once agents start reaching out to you, then you know that that second level is or the next level is an option for sure.
And you could have stayed.
I could have.
You very easily could have stayed. It might have meant a higher draft pick. But so why do it now?
Just strike while you're hot.
Okay.
Strike while the iron's
I've heard
hot.
you say that many times. So
100%. Because you never know what's going to happen the next year, and I had the opportunity this year, and I feel like I was mentally, physically ready, like I've been saying, and so I just took the opportunity now rather than waiting.
It's funny. That's almost the mentality of an edge rusher, right? Strike while it's hot, because you don't have time to think out there. You just got to make your move and have a counter and get to the quarterback, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of, you got to develop that kind of mindset, right?
Yeah. Relentless mindset, and I was ready for that next step, and I took it. So
we had a guy here, Mark Anderson, in 2006, Alabama 5th-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Came in, had a 10-sack season for a team that went to the Super Bowl. It's like he was long like you. He was very good. Came out of the SEC. You're coming out of the Big 12. It's kind of interesting to see those comparisons. And anything can happen because, unlike a lot of positions, your job is just go get the quarterback. Yeah, you got to stand up against the run, too, if you're going to stay on the field for 3 downs. But that idea of developing a toolbox, and I've watched your tape, and you've got counters. You got a lot. I love the long arm.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite.
That's my go-to.
Yeah, that's your go-to. So now that they watch you on tape too, are they teaching you and coaching you, okay, you got to come up with different things to set up a guy over the course of a game?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things on just knowing what moves to work off what counters and just putting my whole repertoire together. But at the same time, I was in a 2-point stance, so just changing to a 3-point stance is a little bit different, a little bit less reading and more attacking. So I definitely like that part of it.
What's the adjustment there? Because you could have easily been an outside linebacker, maybe in another system, putting your hand in the dirt. I'm assuming if you keep your pads down, you get more of that explosion. You win that game of leverage a little bit, which is always a challenge for offensive linemen or defensive linemen. So how are you tackling that with really good coaches in Travis Smith and obviously Eric Washington, your defensive coordinator?
Yeah, they've been big helps, man, and they tell me everything I'm doing wrong, but they also tell me everything I'm doing right. So it's just been great feedback. I've been doing nothing but growing so far. But also in high school, I was a 3-point the whole time. So I'm familiar with it, just getting back to it now with better coaching. Just been great.
Austin Booker, our guest here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Jeff Joniak here at Hallis Hall as they wrap up another day. OTA start next week. So, it's like layering, right? I know you said, mixing with the veterans a little bit. And that's a whole different experience, right? And you got a wonderful teacher to help you out, and a guy like Montez Sweat. Long like you, but established, been around, had an unbelievable impact for the Bears. Did you know this fact? The only player in NFL history to lead two teams in sacks in the same year. He led the Washington Commanders last year, led the Bears this year. Now, that's something I don't think anybody's going to take away from Montez Sweat.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. I did not know that. But, yeah, like you guys said, he's a great player. Knows a lot of great things and also has had a lot of experience being on multiple teams, but also being in the league for how long he has been. So I'm just looking forward to learning with him once he's in the building. We start phase 3, so I just can't wait for that.
Do you have to be a sponge, picking up things? And sometimes, I'm sure everybody from your agent to friends to former teammates are giving you insight. And how do you separate all that and just focus on, the stuff that matters for the Bears and how you need to fit in this defense and how you can excel in this defense?
Yeah, I feel like it's real easy. Just listen to the people in the building.
Yeah.
They want the best for you. They know what's best for you. And then, sometimes it's hard, but you just got to block out everything outside of the building for however long you're here. You can talk to friends and family, but, you just listen to the people in the building for football stuff. They got your best interests.
I was watching rookie camp last weekend. I went up to Ryan Poles. Man, has some long legs. And as you sat down right here, I wanted you to have the mic in the right place. You said a short torso.
Yeah.
Well, man, you look like an NBA player, right? Do you sometimes feel that? And if scouts told you that, and if people told you that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. But the thing I tell them is I got country strength. I got heavy hands, so I can hold my own. But at the same time, I'm cognizant of that I got to get bigger. That I'm still 21 and I can grow. I can get stronger and faster. And I know I haven't made it, so just being able to grow and learn from everybody. So, yeah.
Yeah, what you guys have to go through when you come out to get ready for the combine and do the run, and you're not really doing football stuff, right? You're not really being able to spend a ton of time in the weight room. It's really that even you'll mutter through this year. You'll do what you can, but it's the next off season and the one after that where you'll probably put on more armor. I don't know if they've explained that to you or what your mindset is. And if do you love the weight room?
I love the weight room. COVID, I really got in tune with the weight room because I just had nothing else to do. I didn't have school in person or nothing, so I was constantly in the weight room. And since then, it's been a way to get away from things. And
so pre-COVID, what'd you look like and what'd you weigh to post-COVID?
Pre-COVID, probably like 225.
225.
Just finishing off the season. Starting the season maybe 230, but 225 getting off the season. Going into basketball season, it got canceled, so I was real light. But I knew I was going to the Big Ten, so I got in that weight room and I got right for sure.
Back to COVID, you said, the season was canceled for basketball, and I'm sure football was interrupted at some level. It's almost, for me, I don't even want to remember it, right?
Yeah.
How much did that delay your progress as an athlete in any way? I know a lot of guys felt that way, and they did turn to the weight room and reinvented themselves. But how do you look at it now as a professional football player and what impact that made on you?
100%. I feel like it was mostly a positive impact because I just got a lot of free time to put towards football, but at the same time, I didn't get any official visits. They were all over Zoom, so I didn't really get a good feel of my first college. So that was the only thing I would have took back, or that was probably the only negative effect on my career, I would say, from COVID.
Mm-hmm. Grew up about 3 hours from here, right?
Yep.
From Chicago, anyway, not from Lake Forest, a little further, but Greenwood, Indiana?
Greenwood, Indiana.
Greenwood, Indiana. So you're going back.
Yeah.
Week 3, we're going to play the Indianapolis Colts in a stadium you won a state championship in at Lucas Oil. When you saw that pop up on the schedule, you knew we were going to play them there.
Mm-hmm.
What was your immediate react?
Man, I was excited. I got a bunch of people from home text me, we're going to be there, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just looking forward towards that opportunity to be in that stadium again and hopefully get another sack.
Right. Do you remember? Oh, that's where you.
A couple sacks.
Tell me what you did in that championship game.
Yeah, I had a couple sacks. I had a bunch of tackles. I think we beat them it was close to 50 to 14, something like that.
Who'd you play?
Westfield.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't like the North Side guys, so got a real big win against them.
I'm going to assume Colts fan, but who knows? I always guess wrong with players, even though you grew up there. What? All sports.
Yeah.
What were your favorite teams growing up?
It was definitely just the Colts.
Yeah.
Watching Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis, you can't go wrong, and it's right down the street. So, anytime I had a chance to put it on after church on Sundays or whatnot, it was on.
Boy, those guys. I always remember when Freeney was drafted. there was big criticism. Oh, why'd they draft this guy so high? I'm thinking to myself, man, if your gut tells you a guy's going to be great, and I don't care what round it's in, and you believe in this guy, take him.
Yeah.
Stick with your instinct. Look, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Enjoyed watching him and Mathis, man. They were a dangerous duo.
Yep.
Beat the Bears in the 06 Super Bowl that Devin Hester returned the opening kickoff to. How about NBA?
I didn't watch too much basketball growing up. I didn't really have a favorite team, but I really just like to play basketball.
Yeah.
I watch more.
Yeah, and were you power forward?
Power forward, yeah, but there's not a lot of 6'6" power forwards in the NFL.
No, you got to be a shooting guard now.
Exactly. So
could you hit the three?
Yeah. I was a stretch big.
Stretch big, okay.
But,
I like it.
When I went to travel season, I was running point guard, so I had the handles, I had the quickness, but in high school it wasn't that way. They just threw me in the post because I was the tallest, so that's why basketball didn't really work out.
Yeah. What did you get out of rookie minicamp?
I just got a lot of competition. I mean, you see a lot of guys coming in trying to work for the same spot, so that really just helped my mindset to keep grinding because you get drafted, you get a bunch of
hungry guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you just want to get after it, keep working, and that's all I've been. And then it happens again when you get with the vets. You see some older guys that are doing the same thing. So just staying hungry.
I appreciate you guys going to Bears Care. The rookie class came out, and I've kind of set it up that way so you guys can then go about your business. I think if you guys would have stayed, you guys would have never been able to sit down and eat because the fans just crowded the dance floor where we were standing. I asked each of you guys a question, and the cameras are out. I mean, it's this class has a chance to be an historic one, and you guys probably feel it yourself, don't you?
100%. When we were on the bus there and bus back, I mean, you can just feel the energy. Everybody's about their business and wants to win and has that dog in them. So really excited about that.
I don't remember what I asked you, but I know your answer.
Yep.
Beat the Packers.
Yep.
It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
See?
You can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. You're picking up the baton from Montez Sweat, who said the same thing in the offseason. It's time to stop getting beat by the Green Bay Packers.
Exactly.
So go get them. Appreciate your time. It's wonderful to have you here.
No problem.
Start of a great future, man. We're going to enjoy watching you.
I appreciate it.
Austin Booker, our guest here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Bears Weekly returns after this timeout.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
Calling all Bears fans. Want unforgettable access to see the Chicago Bears play at Soldier Field this season? Well, VIP official ticket packages now available for every home game. Unlock access to exclusive ticket packages that may include entry to in-stadium hospitality lounges, pregame sideline credentials, and the Chicago City Pass. Visit ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755 for more info. Again, that's ChicagoBearsVIP.com or call 866-202-5755. Don't miss this exclusive opportunity with Chicago Bears VIP. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer, Jim Miller, back with you on Bears Weekly here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Tom and Jim, need your feedback on what you heard from Austin Booker. So much to get into with him, but really enjoyed him. And Eric Washington, the D coordinator last week, talked about the energy he brings to every snap after analyzing his tape. And really, that's where you begin and end here with the Bears. You got to have the juice on the field or you're not going to play. Also, they use the word slippery to describe his playing style.
Three things for me and about Austin Booker. I love when I hear players say they love the weight room because that's the last thing I want to find out about them after they draft them, that they don't know how to get into the weight room because I think they suffer from that. Number two is I'm glad to hear him say he's played out of a right-handed and a left-handed stance. Because if he was only comfortable out of one stance and then he had to take time to develop the familiarity, the balance, and the comfort out of that other stance, it takes a long time to work that, a lot like an offensive lineman. And number three, because of the Bears' nutrition program, because of their food offerings, because of the weight room, I think those are the types of things that will help him get to the weight that the Bears have set for him, gain a considerable amount of strength within his first 3 years as an NFL player. And like I said, I think the nutritionist will be able to feed him efficiently to help him out.
Yeah, this guy, he's twitchy, he's slithery. Like you said, some of his tape is pretty amazing when you watch him. He's got a long wingspan, 81 and a half. So he's got the traits that everybody's looking for. The thing about him, 555 plays. That's all he's had in college. Mm-hmm. That's it. So, I mean, it's going to happen fast for him. He's got a lot of work to do. The weight room is a big part of it. Like Tom said, he's got to live in there because right now he is not strong enough to hold up against the run. Now, the situational pass rush stuff, I think he'll be fine, and I think he will be able to contribute because he's got all the athleticism and an array of moves, and some of his tapes suggest he's got some high upside to him. But the ability to stop the run, that's going to be a problem for him, and it's just going to take time for his body to mature, no matter how much or how hard he's working.
Yeah, he was 235 at the University of Minnesota when he got there, got up to 250 at Kansas. I don't know what the plan is. I did look on the internet today, just say what's the average weight of an edge in the traditional defense in the NFL these days, and it may have been outdated because it said 260 because you'd be completely fine at 240, 245, 250 rushing the passer as long as you hang on to your explosion. Right?
Don't get inefficiently heavy. Yeah. That's the last thing he needs to do. But he does need to get stronger in the weight room. And I think when you have the advisory of the nutrition up there and they understand that they're feeding him the correct kind of food, and he is gaining the muscle, becomes more familiar with NFL offenses, I think all the requirements of that job he'll be able to fulfill.
I'll tell you the other answer I like, Jim. When I asked him, hey, does it feel weird that just 3 years and, I don't know, a few months, you were a high school senior and now you're a 21-year-old NFL player? And he said, not at all. This was my plan. And there was no back down. There was no, this was it. This was clearly his plan, and I love that answer. Because you can't change the hunger of a player.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have it or you don't, right? I mean,
players just think differently now coming out of college with the NIL, and they have a plan, like you said, and he definitely had a plan. I'll give you another example. He's a linebacker for the Detroit Lions, Alex Anzalone. All right, so he came out early because he kept on having injuries at University of Florida when he played there. And so his junior year, when he finally stayed healthy, he goes, this is the healthiest I've been. I don't want to risk going back and getting hurt again. And I played my best football. So kind of what Austin Booker said, well, you got to strike while it's hot, when it's there. And these players, they really think about those things and when and why they decide to come out. Now, there are other people, probably scouts that scouted him. He should return to college for one more year. But that was his plan. Obviously it worked. Here the Bears drafted him. Some teams really raved about him, but they wanted probably one more year of maturity just because physically that's really where it needs to be for him.
Tommy, it could wind up being a big steal in the draft because if he did stay in and he was very comfortable with how he was being deployed there at Kansas, short of being a starter, he was a rotational guy and still came out strong. Finished with 8 sacks and a lot of tackles and made some really impressive plays. Could have been a first or second round pick this year. Because I'll tell you, at the Senior Bowl, he was Jim. You have to agree, right? He looked really good, Tommy.
Yeah, he abused a couple of guys down there. It was nice to see.
I'm not comparing them, but I'm saying the journey. When you look at Richard Dent, and he came out of college, and he was an undersized guy that needed to play the run better. And Buddy Ryan told him, Richard, until you play the run for me, you're not going to get on the field. And like Jim said, that's one of his early susceptibilities. He learns how to play the run, and then he's able to contribute immediately, become the pass rusher and the sacker that I think the Bears have their sights on for him. You never know where his career can go. And he said a lot of things that were really encouraging to me today in your interview with him, Jeff, that I feel good about. I feel good about the kid after hearing that interview.
And then the comparisons that people have made, and it's not, he reached out. He reached out to Max Crosby. And granted, he's one of the premier guys in the NFL with a great get-off. But Travis Smith, he worked with Max Crosby, and that's the man you want to be in contact with for sure because the guy players, as Jim always says, hair on fire indeed. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll have our final segment coming up here on Bears Weekly with Tom Thayer And Jim Miller. I'm Jeff Joniak on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
Brought to you by CDW, People to Get It. Jeff and Tom and Jim Miller from SiriusXM NFL Radio, former Bears quarterback. In our final segment, I should also say that I'm going to thank again the young man for joining us, but Austin Booker did sign his contract just moments after my interview with him. It came through, so 3 of the Bears' 5 drafted rookies are signed, leaving Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, the number 1s, still yet to be taken care of, but that'll be short order, I'm sure, as well. And some other things. Congrats to Eric Washington. He's headed to Nashville next week. He's going to be in the NFL Coaches Accelerator Summit. It's a good program that started a few years back to help strengthen that pipeline of diverse coaching candidates. And I know, Tom, because you've mentioned it on a podcast as well. And, Jim, you've probably gotten to know him as well from the training camp tours that you've done. But Eric is he sounds and talks like a head coach at the podium over there. He really
no doubt.
does. Yeah.
When he addressed the podium for the first time. But again, we've also knew Eric when he was with the Bears before. And then you think of the way Eric is going to help these young coaches go into development. Look how we've seen him develop. When he got up to the podium, he was a super well-spoken, intelligent, defensive coordinator in this league. And then you kind of listen to him speak and you see why he deserves this opportunity.
Yeah, no, obviously it just continues to ascend. It's a very good staff. Obviously, the NFL, at least the Park Avenue, they create lists of coaches that they project to be head coaching material, and I know he's been discussed to be put on that list, much like a lot of coaches have been talked, and that's really where you see why these interviews happen. A lot of the teams refer to that. I don't know what it is. It's like a committee of former coaches, head coaches, and players that form that committee of who they project to be next head coaching material, and I think Eric Washington is fast on the rise for that.
All right, so OTAs begin next week, so another step in the process. Again, these are all voluntary, but the Bears have had a good turnout from what I'm told, so a lot of veterans in the house and feeling the energy in the building. Everybody keeps talking about, and I've talked to players about what the locker room feels like right now. Like, there's just a different feeling, and it's not just baloney. You could tell when players don't feel it, but Jim and Tom, these guys feel it. The rookies are feeling it, and it's going to be interesting when it all comes together once training camp starts. I think it'll be the most interesting training camp, and all eyes glued on every aspect of this thing. I really do.
But Jeff, when we were talking the other day about the role and the importance of the kicking game, so it's not only the individuals that we're going to be excited to watch throughout training camp, but it's the different segments of football. Because where the defense is starting off the season to where they finished up last year, we have high expectations for them. When you look at the weapons they brought in on offense, we think the offense with Shane Waldron will have a lot more firepower. And then Coach Hightower, the special teams coordinator, when you sit out there every single day and watch the new design of the kickoff and kickoff return, it's going to be fun. Oh, no, yeah, they brought in a punter that has an arsenal of kicking abilities. That's going to be fun at that part of practice as well.
I think they generally like each other as coworkers. I think you get a sense of that, and they stick together. That's what I was impressed with most last year, is how the team stuck together. Nobody was pointing fingers when the defense probably could have pointed fingers early at the offense. They didn't. They just went about working. And I think they're just more mature now. Much like I brought up last year, that week one, that kind of that really just tore away the goodwill that they had built to the fans out there. This team won't fall into that trap. There's too many guys that went through that and experienced that they're going to say, hey, we're working, we need to get better, but we're not going to be blindsided and be hitting the jaw, so to speak, or knocked out by week one. Because that week one game and that loss and how they played, that somewhat had that team in a hangover for a little bit. And congratulations to Matt Eberflus for really getting the team out of that funk and keeping the unit as a team together. And that's what I like the most. They're a tight-knit group.
Yep, and I will tell you, it's not some just traditional thing. Oh, you got to beat the Packers. No, these guys feel it. They're saying it because they're sick of it. And so I think that's going to be something to watch, too, as we inch towards the latter part of the season. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, Tom and Jim. Thanks to Austin Booker and to our producers, including Sean Graney. Coming up next, Bleck and Abdallah on ESPN as Bears Weekly wraps up here on the home of the Chicago Bears, ESPN Chicago. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Apple Podcasts, Bet Rivers, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite.